everybody, welcome back to another grilling video, and today we are doing an unbelievable favorite here. It's smoked ribs. We're gonna be doing some baby backs as well as some St. Louis style. We're gonna be doing them in the 3-2-1 method, which has been a never fail way of doing ribs for me. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna kick on our PitBoss smoker. We're gonna put it at a smoke temperature, which is about 180 degrees. 3-2-1 is pretty simple. It's 3 hours unwrapped at smoke, 2 hours wrapped. That gives it a nice braise and tenderness, and the last 1 hour you just want to get it cooked up. So we'll talk about what the temperatures are for each of those in just a little bit. The first thing to talk about here is the skin on the back. I'm going to flip these over, and this is the big question: should you pull the silver skin off or not? Some people like it on there because they like the texture and the bite. I actually prefer to take it off of there. So I'm going to show you a neat trick for doing this. You need a paper towel. The paper towel is because this silver skin is slippery without it. So we're going to start with that. So let's go ahead and get us a little spoon here. And all we want to do is use our spoon and work it underneath the silver skin right between two of the bones. And the idea is you're just trying to lift up a corner here. Just keep going until you find a spot where it comes up. And you'll see it's starting to go underneath that. It's exactly what we want. And we're just going to get it all the way to the end using the spoon. We started, about 2 ribs in from the end. The reason we're doing that is we're trying to loosen up enough of this to get a good grip on it with that paper towel. All right, so we've got that. Next step is we're gonna grab this with the paper towel, use the paper towel to hold it so you can get a grip, and then, this is oddly satisfying, you're just gonna pull that silver skin right up off of there. Again, the paper towel is pretty needed. If you try to do that without the paper towel, you almost won't be able to. We'll go ahead and do our next one here. St. Louis style aren't quite as easy to get that off of there, but we're going to do it with the exact same method. I'm going to run it right along one of these bones to get it started. All right, let's see if that's enough for us to grab hold of it with our napkin. And I'm going to pull toward the edge so I get it all the way across the ribs first before I start running lengthwise on them. There we go. Grab it. Same thing. I'm going to hold it down and peel that right up. Now, St. Louis style is going to get right to the edge of this little sort of folded piece of extra meat, and that's where we'll stop with this one. So now your choice if you want to trim these up a little bit. I'm going to. Just going to trim off a little bit of the extra fat and this thicker silver skin on this little flap on the St. Louis style ones. Let me clean up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get these things seasoned up. I'll show you how we put our rub and a binder on it. Binder is 100% optional, but I'll show you what we're gonna use today. All right, so with the silver skin off, my hands cleaned up a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and do these. And a lot of times you'll see people will slather these with a mustard before they put a rub on it. And that mustard, the whole purpose of it is to make a sticky surface that the rub is gonna stick to very well. Now, I've never had a problem with the rub sticking. However, I have some of this Miss Griffin's sweet barbecue sauce. It's something I got in one of these kit things that Deb gave me. I'm going to use that as my binder, and I'm not going to put a lot of it on here. By the way, this is it's a vinegar-based thin barbecue sauce, so I'm not doing a lot. I'm just going to put a little bit on here and spread it around a bit as a way to create a sticky surface that my rub is going to stick to real well. Now, we're going to go ahead and use our rub. Again, use your favorite rub. I will say a classic good pork rib rub is something with salt, pepper, garlic, and brown sugar. You like the sugar in it. It gives a really nice sort of flavor to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this stuff on here pretty good and thick. Humidity gets to these things, by the way. Now we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the exact same thing before we put it in the smoker. Remember, we are at 180 degrees. If you're using a pellet smoker, a lot of times that's just going to be what they call a smoke setting. That's good enough. Over here. Yeah, right here. Hey, do me a favor. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell notification so you get notified of new videos. Thanks. All right, same thing. We're going to pat this in a little bit. And we're just going to let this sit now at about room temperature for a few minutes. The reason we're doing that is we want this to sweat out a little bit. Meat's going to get a little bit warm, it's going to get moist, and it's going to make that rub sort of bind together. And when it looks moist, then you know it's time to go ahead and put it in the smoker. Somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes is really all you need. All right, it's been about 10 more minutes and these are starting to glisten. It's exactly what we want to see. Let me zoom in and show it to you so you can get a bit of a visual on that look, and you'll know when it's time to put them into the smoker. All right, with our smoker sitting at about 180 degrees, we're going to go ahead and put these right on this top shelf. I'm going to run these sideways instead of forward and backward like I normally do. There we go. All right, 3 hours. Remember the 3-2-1 method. 3 hours to start, and that's on the smoke setting, low and slow. Now what you want to do is you want to come out here and you want to spritz these with a little bit of apple juice, a little bit of broth, even water. And what that's going to do is as the rub begins to dry, you spritz them down, you get them moist again, and it dries out again. And each time it dries out, it forms a little bit more of a crust or a bark. Now some would argue that that's more important on a brisket than it is on ribs, especially given that we're going to wrap these later, and in which case it's going to get soft again. But I still enjoy doing it. It's a good habit to get in. I'm afraid if I got out of the habit when I was doing a brisket out here where it's really important, I might forget. All right, so it's been right at 3 hours. We've been checking these about every hour and spritzing them just a little bit. I didn't bother filming all that for you because I think you know what spritzing looks like. So let me kind of show you what these look like up close, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap them. Now you can do one of two things. You can wrap them in aluminum foil, a little bit called the Texas crutch when you do a brisket, or you can wrap them in butcher paper, and it really depends on the bite you want. If you want them to be just a little bit drier and keep it kind of retain that bark a little bit, then you want to use butcher paper. If you like them to be really soft, fall off the bone soft, then you want to wrap them in foil. That's the big difference between these two. Really simple. Let's go ahead and get the foil out here and we'll pull these off. I'll show you what they look like. Look at these ribs, that looks good. Bones are starting to be exposed just a little bit. That's exactly what we want to see. Nice. We'll get these wrapped up. All right, so now when we wrap these, what I like to do is sort of create myself a little bit of a boat here, because we're going to add some liquid into this. I'm going to raise up all the sides. Now what I like to do is, there's a lot of different things you can do here. A little bit of apple juice, a little bit of brown sugar. In this particular, by the way, that's a classic way to do it. What you're trying to do is just get a little bit of a liquid in here that's going to help braise it. What I've put in here is a little tiny bit of water, about 1/4 of a cup, about 3 tablespoons of the same vinegar-based barbecue sauce that we put on it as a binder. I also added just a little bit of maple syrup. You could do the same with honey or sorghum or some kind of sweetened item. And also, it's really good to put a little bit of butter in here. Now, I'm not going to put a lot on here. Maybe, let's say, under 1/4 of a cup. And now, we're just going to go ahead and fold this up. Fold up my sides. I like to actually wrap them along the top like this. Create a nice pocket on them. And that's going to let us put these right back in there. All right, with these guys wrapped, we're going to pop them right on in here. Two hours, the 3-2-1 portion, 2 hours. We're going to put it at 225 to 250. We're going to wrap them up in either foil or butcher paper. I like braising them, which is why I use foil, and I add a little bit of that liquid. We're going to put them in there again now for 2 more hours. And then the last thing we're going to do after 2 hours, we're going to open them up. We're going to take them out of the foil, put them back on the grill. We're going to baste them in any kind of sauce you might want. But 1 more hour, that gets that nice bark and crispy edge again on it. Makes it nice and sort of shiny and beautiful on the outside. So 2 more hours for the 2 portion here at 225 to 250 degrees. We'll see you in 2 hours. So sometimes we have to improvise a little bit. It started pouring before, so I slid everything up under the edge of the roof line here. After 2 hours at 225 to 250 degrees, I went ahead and pulled the ribs out. I opened them up, checked the temperature to make sure they were good. And what you want to see is you want to see the rib meat starting to pull back on the bone. You want to see a good 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of the bone starting to be exposed on the end of the ribs. That's exactly what we had. I then took them out and put them on the grill. Now, forgive me, I didn't film this because it was raining pretty hard right when it happened. So let me show you what they look like. They've been in for about 35 minutes of the last hour. And if you want to sauce them, this is the time to do it. You want to mop some sauce on it. If you remember, just before we put the rub on, we used a vinegar-based barbecue sauce as our binder. That's exactly what I'm painting onto this using a little silicone brush. And I don't want this to add a lot of flavor, but almost create a nice little glaze, if you will, on the outside of these. We should be done here. We're right at the outside of an hour. Let's go ahead and pull these guys off of here. See if the rain cooperates with me, just enough to turn this sideways and show you guys. Well, first let me zoom in and show you just what these look like, because boy, they sure look good. As I mentioned before, what you want to see are these bones sticking out like this. That means you are good and tender. And just to give you an idea, I'm just going to take this bone here, give it a little twist, and look at that. That is fall off the bones tender. That's on the St. Louis style. We can try and do the same thing here on these baby backs. If you can see the rib there, same thing. We'll give it a little twist, and it comes out pretty darn clean. Start right here, cut this guy. Our St. Louis style, and then we'll do one of our baby backs here. All right, and now comes the absolute best part. We get to try these guys. So let's start with our St. Louis style one, which is already just fallen off the bone. These are still pretty warm. I'm just gonna have a bite here. Whew. That's hot. Man, that flavor is unbelievable. I pick up this end that came off of here. Man, St. Louis style ribs are so good. A little bit more meaty, not quite as tender as the baby backs, but absolutely delicious. Man. And then look at these big guys. I mean, look at that size of that. That's a bite right there. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab me a spot here and have a bite of it. Well, there you have it. 3-2-1 method ribs. They are phenomenal. Almost can't go wrong. I always hate saying foolproof because nothing's completely foolproof. Something can always go wrong. But we've made these a number of times. They are phenomenal every single time. And the method produces delicious, tender, flavorful ribs. Well, I should carry these inside for everybody else for dinner. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will see you again next week for another grilling video. Safe and happy grilling.